Is there anything that you feel like? Is there anything you should absolutely never tell the cops? Like any one thing that like when you're reading a case, like really?
Just don't talk to the cops at all. Just identify yourself. Just give them your driver's
When do you
license.
need to identify yourself?
Legally, um,
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Real Grande podcast. It's another week on the show. My name is Sam, and today we are hanging out with Mr. Simran Singh, criminal defense and business law attorney. What's up, man? We've been talking for a while already.
yeah, we've been talking for a while. I think this entire year we went back and forth, but finally we're able to set something in stone.
Yeah, we made something. We
Yeah.
made something happen. He's been in Houston a lot. Right?
Yes, I have. I have an office up there, so I go pretty frequently for my cases. I practice in Harris County, where Houston is situated in, and then the surrounding counties like Fort Bend, Montgomery
That's cool,
County.
man.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So he's here to tell us how to not get arrested. But no, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I just wanted you guys to your ears to perk up. But so specifically, and do you do more like defense, or is it like half and half? Or
It's like half and half right now.
okay,
I think
okay.
when I first started, it was more criminal defense, but now it's about half and half. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask you this to start off, man. I'm like, just remember, it's not an interview. Like
Right.
we're just talking. But why does someone choose to go into defense, like a defense attorney?
I always had a fascination for criminal defense because, in fact, when I was younger, when I was 14 years old, I was arrested myself.
Okay,
So that definitely
that stuck with you.
it stuck with me, especially with what the cops had told me when I was in back of the unit in the handcuffs. But it did stick with me because I found it fascinating how at that time, because I'm only 14, is how they're able to like just take custody of you. Like that was just so foreign to me.
Oh, okay.
Like you know, like you're in a way. I mean, even though it has a different legal definition, but like they're kind of kidnapping you
Yeah.
in a way.
Like you can do this,
Right.
Like in your
You-
mind, right? Like
right,
you're
you know.
handcuffed. Like
I mean, you don't regularly go up to people and then like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
handcuff them or stop them from moving or anything.
they're
Like,
not your mom. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and it kind of just stuck with me throughout high school until when I finished high school. I decided, I have an interest in this legal stuff. My background was in IT and a little bit of computer science, and that kind of helped me a bit on how to like understand laws because I was reading laws very similarly how I was like writing code.
Oh,
In a way,
translated.
I just felt like writing code are like the laws to an app versus the laws are the codes to people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how like
Oh.
we engage with each other, how it regulates our conduct. But yeah, I mean, as far as attorneys going into it, I think it's because there's so many criminal cases.
Mhm.
There's the court appointment wheel, and people get started like that.
Wait, did they do something that like? Did you feel like you want to like represent the kid that's you in the future or what? Or like, you know what
Sure,
I mean?
you know what? Because what those cops had told me at that time really stuck with me. I was arrested for possession of marijuana,
At
right?
14?
At 14. And it wasn't even mine, but I'm not going to litigate the whole facts of what it could have been. But I was taken into custody. I was in a group of friends, but there was 2 police units, and so there was 4 of us, if I recall correctly. 2 of us went in one unit, the other 2 went in the other unit. And it was this officer who she was telling me, she was criticizing my parents. Even though I think at 14 I was pretty well aware. I kind of knew how to get around my parents, but my parents are amazing people. I'm not commenting on their ability to parent me.
You guys are the best.
Right. But I mean, I was just a little rebellious at that age. And she told me that she wouldn't let her son smoke pot, which, I mean, arguably, I don't think any parent would.
The officer.
The officer had told me that while I was in handcuffs. And then she told me that if I had any desire to seek higher education, like to go to college or anything, like it was over. Right. And I thought that was very crazy, just off just a very short encounter off something to me, which even at that age, at 14, sure, weed is illegal, but I still had a grasp of different severities of different crimes. Like, okay, but this isn't as bad as like a bunch of other stuff that goes on out here.
Yeah, I see what that kid's doing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting arrested for this and somehow my life ends at this point. And maybe the lady was just trying to really scare me, but being as aware as I was at that age, like it stuck with me because she said, well, you're never going to get into college. And then suddenly now I'm an attorney.
Do you remember who it was? Her name or something?
I have the police report.
Because like we could do a whole thing like, by the way, ma'am, like he went to college.
Right,
like,
right. You know, I had thought about that. I had thought about posting that on my Instagram, but it's not worth the drama.
It'd be kind of, well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it'd be more like a
because I don't want people to then go and criticize the woman. I don't know whether she still is in law enforcement or what, but
well, I meant it as a happy thing, like he did. But yeah, it would come off as like a
right. Then I'm talking bad about her.
Yeah,
right. So we're good. We're good on that. But that stuck with me. That definitely.
No, we're like, come on up,
right,
Officer Nancy. She's in the back. She's listening to like our whole other conversation.
Oh man.
The next shot, she's sitting with you. Like, anyway, that's funny, man. This guy's over here laughing. She's been here the whole time. No, that's actually interesting because I was gonna ask you something about cops, man. Specifically in the valley, right? Because if you look at the country, there's been, especially like the last several years, there's that whole like police are like defund the police and like cops are pigs or whatever. So I wanted to ask you, like, from your perspective, like, how do we as a community, right? So like everyone right now is watching, this is the valley.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we treat our police officers? You can tell us the truth.
Right, right. You know, I think the valley tends to treat its police officers better than larger cities. We still have a somewhat conservative aspect to the culture down here versus I think in larger cities that tend to be more progressive. And I'm not commenting on whether I'm progressive or conservative.
Yeah.
But, you know, like in a bigger city like Houston, I think there's less trust for the cops there than there is here.
For sure.
People tend to respect the cops a little more here until they're on the opposite end of being on the handcuffs. But generally speaking, people respect law enforcement here.
Okay, so you do see that there's like at least a healthy level of respect?
I think so.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because like the people that are like adults right now, like they grew up with like the whole like, hey, like el officer te va a llevar.
Right.
Voy a hablar a la policía, right? So like I was wondering how that translated to like when we grew up. Because a lot of us like, I don't know if that's still, I had asked that like before in the podcast, like the new generation of parents, like, are we still telling our kids like that the police are gonna like take you away? I wonder, like, let us know in the comments if you're still treating the police like the cucuy, right? But that whole concept was like the cucuy, the llorona, right? The police was one of them, dude. Like, it was like a thing like to shut up, right? Shut your kids up because the cop's gonna take you. So I wondered how like we would feel about them once like our fear of them, like now we're older. But I guess that's good. So we at least treat them better than
we do
than bigger places.
And I still hear parents today using that when I go to a grocery store. It's a Mexican thing.
It is, right?
It's like, a Mexican.
But even the new parents, like,
even the new parents,
so it's still going.
Yeah, it goes down.
The cycle still
it trickles down.
Okay,
for sure.
Because I haven't heard the whole cucuy, like, you know, the cucuy thing,
right?
Like,
I haven't heard that one recently.
Yeah, but you see it in the cops.
Yeah.
So the kids are still scared of them, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I wonder at what point like they become, like, then at what point are cops good? You know, because like hopefully they're good to you.
I have a lot of friends that are in law enforcement that are great people.
Well, yeah, for sure.
You know, that I respect them and how they go about their profession. While maybe I might have a particular opinion about how they should go about being cops, it doesn't necessarily mean that the way that they go about it, which is not necessarily how I would prefer it, means that they're wrong. You know, like at the end of the day, right? I mean, if the cop has a reason to arrest you, while I might look at the whole thing like till the end, it's like, well, is it really worth it? The whole case, you know?
Do you see that?
I see that. But, you know, at the end of the day, I can't be mad. That's another person doing their job. You know, that's what they're paid to do. Even though they don't have to arrest you, cops don't have to arrest. I think there's only like under Texas law, like 2 reasons where they have to arrest you. I think it's either if you have a warrant or there's a whole nother list. Maybe like there's like domestic violence or something. But otherwise, like a cop, otherwise it's all discretion. You know, a cop doesn't have to arrest you. I mean, if they see you commit a felony too, they don't have to arrest you. The law says they can, but they don't have to.
Even if they see you commit a felony?
Yeah, they don't have to. They can literally, if they get your information, they can go file a charge and you can get a summons in the mail, or they can get a warrant and they can pick you up later, you know. That's what they tend to do. Once like the prosecutors are the ones filing charges. But at the law enforcement level, their typical procedure is just to arrest the person, process them into the jail, and then send it to the prosecutors, the DA's office, the U.S. Attorney's office. And
Is that the perspective of a defense lawyer though, saying like that the law says they can arrest? Because like, do you look for like loopholes all the time? Like,
I mean, it just says a peace officer may arrest a person. May just means that it's discretionary.
yeah.
But
even for seeing a felony.
Even for seeing a felony.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like witnessing it. Like
right.
Okay.
But what you tend to understand is that not everyone sits down and reads the law, one. And then two, even if they do, I mean, let's say
talking about cops, right?
About the cops. Yeah. The first comment was everybody, but the second comment is the cops. What I'm about to say is that they're restrained about how their department tells them how to enforce the law. So if your department is telling you, oh, you have to arrest them when you see a felony, they're going to do it even though the law says the officer doesn't have to. Why? Because the department also has a lot of authority on how they enforce the law. So like, let's say they have a policy that says you have to arrest them. And you decide to say, well, the law says I can. Well, you're further restrained by your departmental policy. They can get in trouble. They can get disciplined at their workplace for not following the policy of that department.
Oh, just like business policy. Like
right.
How in Texas you can take a dog to the store, but Walmart can say no because that's our policy.
Exactly.
Like no pets allowed.
Exactly. Okay, so they get to control how their law enforcement officers kind of exercise their discretion.
What's the number one reason in the Valley to get arrested? Why do most people get arrested?
DWI. I think it's DWI.
That was pretty quick, man, of an answer.
Yeah.
So that's like, it's happening all the time?
Yeah, I think if I go look up all my cases, I probably have most of my misdemeanors are DWIs.
That's a misdemeanor?
Yeah. Well, it depends on how many convictions you have. If it's a first time, it's a Class B misdemeanor. Unless you come out with your blood alcohol content level being 0.15 or more, then it's a Class A misdemeanor. Or I think if you have a child too, it might get enhanced too. But then like, let's say you have a conviction for a Class B, you get arrested again, it's Class A. You get a second conviction, then the subsequent one is going to be a state jail felony.
Oh yeah, because now
it gets enhanced upon convictions, but not arrest. So people tend to think that just because they were arrested once and then they get their case dismissed and they get arrested again, that it's going to be DWI second, but it's not. It's still a first. It requires a conviction for the enhancement.
Oh yeah, the arrest didn't matter, right?
Right.
Yeah, the arrest is just the police level.
Right.
Yeah, the court
it's just to start the case.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything that you feel like? Is there anything you should absolutely never tell the cops? Like any one thing that like when you're reading a case, like really,
just don't talk to the cops at all. Just identify yourself. Just give them your driver's license.
When do you need to identify yourself?
Legally,
everybody's listening right now, man.
Right. So I'm analyzing like the failure to ID statute. I don't know if they've modified it as of recently.
That's a big thing with the whole like sovereign citizen.
Yes, they do. If a cop comes up to you, for example, and I'm analyzing.
But what, like, are we talking in public or like under like operating a motor vehicle?
If you're operating a motor vehicle and the cop has a reason to pull you over,
okay,
right? Then I believe the transportation code permits them to request your driver's license. So
because you're operating a motor vehicle.
Because you're operating a motor vehicle, and then they also have some reason to suspect you're engaged in some sort of criminal activity. And when I say criminal activity, it's because all traffic violations in Texas, for the most part, they're criminal violations. They're Class C misdemeanors. So, as long as the cop has some sort of reasonable suspicion or probable cause to pull you over, then the law also gives them the authority to ask for your ID, and the law says you have to turn it over. The other way is failure to ID, and there's usually two ways you can get charged with that. It's either if a cop comes up to you and they have no reason to arrest you or otherwise detain you, and they ask you for your information, your driver's license, you don't have to give it to them. But if you decide you voluntarily want to identify yourself and you give them fictitious information, false, that's a failure to ID. Or the other way is that you're lawfully arrested. So after you've been arrested, they ask you to identify yourself and you don't. Well, then that's a failure to ID.
So then does that mean that, because you said that if they had a reason to pull you over for a criminal offense, does that mean they have to tell you why they pulled you over first and then you can identify
yourself?
No, I know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And I think it's good practice for them to tell you at least what they're pulling you over for. But I think the way that the law reads, or the state of the law is that as long as the officer has some reason to either detain or pull you over, they don't have to tell you why. It just has to exist.
So as soon as they say identify yourself, like...
Sure. I mean, I would look at the totality of like, what's going on. If a good practice is just do it.
Yeah.
right?
To
Even
avoid problems,
to
though,
avoid
right?
problems, I'm not going to be arguing with the cop right there on the spot about whether or not they had a reason to pull me over,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want to risk, another charge, even if they might be wrong, just because I want to stick it to the cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
My generally what I tell is just give them your ID, identify yourself, give them your insurance, and that's about it. You
And
don't
that's
have to
it.
answer any questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So if you were driving to like, to put it simply, if I was driving a car and they pull me over, when they tell me to identify myself, I have to. Like, it's safe to assume
Right,
like you
right.
should, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Okay.
would. I would.
Okay. But beyond that, you would just like shut up, like.
I guess.
Okay, that hesitation, was it because you don't want to be like a jerk?
No,
Or
no. The thing is that like it kind of falls into like the same question. Like my thought process behind it is when people ask me, and I know this is not what you asked,
yeah,
but it's like, how do I not get arrested? How do I not get a ticket? And that's not necessarily a legal question. That's more of a psychological question, that a psychological game you got to play with the cop, where the law's not involved. If I get pulled over for something and I'm gonna tell the cop, well, I'm just gonna give you my driver's license, I'm not gonna answer any questions, all this and that. Sure, I'm preparing myself for a good defense if I'm gonna take the case to trial or argue against it with the prosecutor, but the cop's gonna give me a ticket
because you started off like,
because you're kind of
oh yeah, yeah,
But if you play it regular, like a regular citizen, oh, you know why I pulled you over? No, I don't know why you pulled me over. Oh, I pulled you over for this. Oh, okay. All right. Well, where were you going? Oh, I was going over here. All right. There's a chance that the cop might just say, I'm just going to give you a warning.
because you were cool with them.
Sure. But that's psychological. That's not legal.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
There's
Yeah.
no legal law or no law that I'm invoking that's causing the officer.
There's
to give
no
me.
answer. How do I not get arrested?
No.
Like legally.
Right. No.
So your
'Cause
answer,
then, like,
if you had an answer, it would be like, you got to be cool with them. Like, you got to play the mind game.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you're doing or what they're accusing you of. If it's just a ticket, then to me, it's just, okay. I mean, I'll go ahead and submit to your questions, I guess. But if I'm being accused of something very serious, then I'm not going to say anything at all.
Yeah.
No, I'll just identify myself and that's it. It's the state's burden to prove that you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You answering questions is more evidence for the state.
You're helping them out.
You're helping them convict you.
Which makes your job harder.
Right,
as a
exactly.
defense
So like
attorney.
most of mine, they all try to get out of game. I get it. Nobody wants to get arrested. That's probably like the worst part of the entire case. It's crazy. You can go to court, go to probation. They'll work with you. But the cop on the side of the road that's pulled you over, that guy's not going to work with you. He's going to take you in. You
That's
have to go to
interesting.
county.
Yeah.
It is what it is, Now that's why, like,
So you would just take it, like, just get arrested.
just get arrested. We'll bond you out tomorrow morning, or I'll call your family so they can go post your bond and you can get, depending on how soon they hire me, right? Then I'll go argue at their bond hearing. Let's say the judge was going to give them like a $10,000 cash surety bond. I argue and they give them a PR bond. Even better.
What's a PR bond?
Personal recognizance bond. And it's basically a bond where instead of the court requiring you to post up a certain amount of money, whether it be like the full amount or through a surety, like a bonds person,
Mm-hmm.
you're promising to show up. But if you don't show up, then you're going to owe the county a certain amount of money. Whether or not they actually charge you when you don't show up that money, it rarely happens.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's just a way to scare you, I guess.
when they tell you that you don't show up for jury duty.
Right,
you're gonna
like
get
they'll say
fined.
you have a $10,000 PR bond, so it just means that if you fail to appear, you're going to owe the court $10,000. Right, but that doesn't happen. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
a way to set the severity of what it is, I guess, based on the amount that they set. $1,000 bond is way different than a $10,000 bond, $100,000 bond, a $50,000 bond.
Yeah, yeah. Man, there's so many
Yeah,
like what is that, variables? Like,
right. There's different factors that a judge is supposed to, a magistrate is supposed to take into consideration when setting a bond. Your financial ability, the severity of the allegations, perhaps the weight of the evidence at that time, your ties to the community, family ties.
oh, okay. Yeah.
There's
yeah.
a whole set of factors. Your income. There's a whole bunch. Your citizenship status as well.
So do you get clients who are like, oh man, this guy's like this guy?
Yeah, I mean, I get
Yeah.
some where they have a bunch of prior convictions and stuff, and I'm just thinking like, okay, man. I mean, we're
Help me out.
they're telling
here.
me get me a PR bond. They don't want to pay anything to get out. I mean, they've obviously already paid me to represent them, but that's generally for like the whole case,
Yeah.
right? But they don't want to save money on posting the bond. But if you have this many convictions, all these prior encounters and whatnot,
Do you tell them like, come on, man?
I do tell them.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, bro. Like,
Okay, well, let me ask you. I'm gonna ask you another question. We're gonna pivot a little bit. Have you ever had a client where you thought they were guilty, where like you didn't even believe like
That I thought they were guilty?
Yeah, like you're defending a client.
I
You're
mean,
this
that's
guy's
like what?
guilty.
That's like what? 80% of my clients?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, okay, no, let me
Okay,
rephrase
but
that. Let me rephrase that.
okay.
You're defending a client and you're trying to prove their innocence, but even you aren't buying it.
Well, because my job as a defense attorney is not to necessarily prove that they're innocent.
Yeah, I realized that.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's the job of the state to prove that they're guilty. They're presumed innocent. So usually, I mean, there's different approaches. If I have evidence that shows that they're innocent, then I'm going to try my best to show that they're innocent through that evidence. Like, oh, they weren't there, or that wasn't them. Whatever the case may be.
Yeah, yeah.
It varies from case to case. But let's say the evidence is there's not like that good rebuttable evidence on my part, right, as a defense. Then all I can do now is just chip away at the state's evidence so that they don't meet their burden in showing that my client's guilty.
Okay.
You know, there's like a phrase that we were discussing earlier where it's like, is my client guilty? Probably, but probably isn't good enough.
Okay.
It's not.
Like
Probably
yeah,
is way lower than beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, in court.
You know?
But I guess my question is like, let's say like I tell you like, nah, man, I didn't do it, and you're looking at me in my case, you're like, bro,
when
you
those
did it,
situations
man.
happen.
Has that ever
Okay.
happened to you? Like, bro,
Yes.
I don't even believe you.
Right. Well, you know what? I mean, I guess it depends on how well I'm able to get to my client. Most of the time, they're honest with me, which is the best way you're supposed to do it.
Like, did
You
do
need to
it?
tell your lawyer everything. It's protected under attorney-client privilege. I can't go and tell the prosecutor or tell the world what you're telling me.
Yeah.
If you literally murdered them, like you had the intention to kill them and you did it, you need to tell me, right? I need to know everything that the other side doesn't know, right? So I need to know what the real story is.
Is that gonna help them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then I'm going to craft up a whole argument based off a lie. And then the prosecutor, their attorneys too, they're going to see right through it and show how my argument is bad. I have to work literally with what I have.
Yeah.
I tell clients, you know, we can't change the facts. Like I can't go back into the past and change what happened.
Yeah.
You know, we can just work with what we got right now. And sometimes, you know, that plays a factor in whether or not we want to go to trial. You know, because there's in a criminal case and in civil cases too. In criminal cases, it's whether or not you're guilty, and in civil cases, it's whether or not you're liable. So the first phase is always determining whether or not you're guilty, right? Are you innocent or guilty? If you're guilty, then the second phase is the punishment. You have a whole separate hearing, or it might be the same, but on sentencing, what's the appropriate sentence to give this person? Because it also plays there's different factors to consider. How aggravated the circumstances. Maybe someone committed a crime, the same crime, but they went about it in a more violent, aggravated way. Maybe they used a gun. Maybe in this particular case, they didn't use a gun. Well, then you might want to argue that someone who has a gun will get more time than someone who didn't. So that's what that is. But
okay, that makes. Yeah, I was wondering like, oh no, I didn't do it, man. But you're looking at me like, bro, you're full of.
I will tell them. I mean, even then, I'll tell them. You think the jury or the judge is gonna believe this? Like, you might believe it, but you think anyone else? Because at the end of the day, you have to understand like this legal stuff. It's not really about what actually happened.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, kind of.
It's about what can be shown through the evidence.
Okay.
You know, because I mean, unless there's a camera following you around 24/7, seeing how you committed the crime, and you're literally expressing to them what's going through your mind. Yes, I really intentionally wanted to do this. We're all just trying to guess by the evidence to show what was going through your mind and what you did.
Everybody, right?
Everybody. So it's not about what actually happened. It's just simply what the evidence can show.
So you're never trying to. So your job is never to say he's innocent. Your job is to say you can't prove he's guilty.
Well, because by default he's already innocent.
Oh, because he's presumed innocent.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
It's like
now.
a chess game.
Yeah, it literally is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're playing chess with the other.
That's literally what you're doing. But I don't want to say it like that because we're dealing with people's lives here.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but I mean, but it is what it is.
But the rules, I mean, it's kind of like a game in a way.
Okay.
Yeah. At least the procedural rules.
And does it happen where the person like tells you they're guilty, but they
Yeah.
want to plead innocent?
All of them.
Okay.
Well,
That's
I mean, some of
interesting.
them it depends. Like if they're new to the legal system, then yes, everyone wants to kind of just avoid everything.
Not guilty.
Right? Not guilty. You have some that have already been in the system that say, you know what, I don't think there's a good case. Even though, I mean, it's still up to me and my client to sit down, review the evidence and determine whether or not there's something that's arguable. But assuming that there isn't, then you want to focus your time on mitigating the severity of the punishment.
Yeah.
So instead of me spending or us spending all this time trying to show that you're innocent, the state or the feds have a good case against you. Let's just spend more time working on how we can reduce your sentence.
Okay.
That's also another one. Let's say the state wants or the feds want 20 years and you get the guy 5. That's still not bad either.
Yeah, you won.
Exactly. You have wins in different ways.
Okay.
Sometimes,
and in that case, you were never trying to like prove that he was not guilty because even you knew he was.
Right. I mean, like I said, most of my clients are. If we're setting aside the game of what the evidence can show, generally they are. And that's okay. Right? I mean, they're here because they need representation. I'm not always here to show their innocence necessarily. I'm also here to ensure that they understand their rights. They understand what's going on in the system. Okay, what's this hearing for? What's this motion for? What are they trying to do? It's to guide you also through this system that you're navigating. Because at the end of the day, the decision lies on them. I'm not the one that's going to sign the paperwork and I'm going to be the one that goes to prison.
Yeah, true.
I still get to go home. I got paid and I get to go home. I'm here. I'm a tool for this person in a way, even though I'm representing them because there's certain things that I'm more educated than they are on, where I'm like, okay, this is right or wrong. I know maybe they wouldn't be able to appreciate because they don't know about their rights or the procedure. But at the end of the day, those decisions about, pleading guilty and whatnot, that's on them. I can tell them, you know what? I think they have a really good case against you. I don't really think there's much of an argument for us to make. At the end of the day, they can still tell me, well, you know what? I still want to go to trial anyway. Okay, well then I got us prepared for trial.
Against your advice?
Yeah.
And that happens too?
Yeah, it does. Generally, it doesn't because, I mean, at the end of the day, they have the mindset of like, who's going to know better than the lawyer, right? But it still has to be the decision that they, freely and voluntarily make.
Yeah, you can't force anyone.
I can't. If I coerce someone to take a plea, then they can get their plea set aside.
And have you had anything that's like heavy on the heart? Like where you feel like, oh man, like this sucks. Like seeing like what like the cases like, or is it all just like, it's all just business?
No. Well, I think over time you start getting a little bit numb to it, because I also have to be able to be somewhat emotionally detached for my client's benefit.
True.
Which is also another reason why attorneys exist, because if you are representing yourself, you're generally emotionally charged, and that's generally will affect your judgment. That's why you have attorneys, right?
That's very similar to like the healthcare field where I work. Like same thing. You kind of have to be emotionally detached to think clearly. Like,
be objective about it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing with the clients too. I have to get objective when I'm explaining. Like, I mean, I have to sit down with these clients and tell them, you know what? If you take the plea, you're going to have to do 10 years. Like, I might be nonchalant about it, even though I'm really not, because I'm literally seeing this person in front of me, another human, have to process in their mind that they're going to have to be locked up somewhere that they don't want to be, right? Notwithstanding, I mean, whether or not I have my own opinion on whether or not they should be sent to prison or whatnot. But at the end of the day, I'm just looking at a person who's just willingly processing and will likely agree to go to prison, to explain that to them.
That's weird, right?
It is weird.
Because you're watching someone like, their reaction to like prison time.
Right.
Like not everyone gets to see that face.
Yeah, no, you don't. And it's something you have to be able to process because you're the professional, right? I mean, I can't always be looking more concerned than my client because then it's going to seem like I don't know what I'm doing either.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it just is what it is. I mean, we don't perform miracles. Miracles do happen from time to time, but that's not by the actual intentional doing of the attorney. Like if I go to trial and the case is so clear cut for the state or the feds, but the jury returns a not guilty verdict, great. But the likelihood of that happening was not something that was like something I could have predicted.
Yeah.
You're just taking your chance at that point.
With the jury trial.
Right.
Yeah. Man.
So
that's kind of interesting because like a lot of times like we don't think of the lawyer as like, you don't feel like there's a sentimental aspect of it, but you're and then you're with them, right? Like when they get like 25 years, like do you, is there any consolation there or is it all just business? Or
you just, as a lawyer, at least legally, you're just supposed to make sure that your client understands what's going on. So like when they go to enter a guilty plea, the judge is going to read them the range of the punishment. They're going to say, okay, you're entering a guilty plea where your range of punishment for this charge is 5 to 20 years. So, I mean, that person is hearing it from the judge right then and there. They're going to get anywhere between 5 to 20, but you've already prepped them. Like it shouldn't be news to
They
them.
knew it.
Right. They knew it. That's why you're entering the plea.
Has anyone ever fainted on you? Like when they hear their sentence or
No,
had like
no,
an
but you know
anxiety
what?
attack?
I've had some clients that like it just really hits them. Like it's one thing for me to tell them in the conference room at my office, they're at the courthouse. Okay, you're gonna tell the judge you're gonna enter a guilty plea when he asks you how do you plead guilty, and they already know. Okay, and they know okay I'm gonna get 5 years. But it's something. It's different when the judge tells you right there. Yeah, okay. Well, the punishment range is 5 to 20, and that's I look at my clients and you can really see like how it hits them. So yeah,
And you're just watching.
I'm just
That's all you
watching,
can do. Yeah.
just making sure that I did my job and that they're understanding what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So Mr. Simran Singh, criminal defense and business law attorney here in the Valley and Houston, in case you
Yes.
find yourself arrested
And in
over
Houston
there.
as well, for sure.
Right. Or but not just arrested, business too.
Business
Right,
stuff. I
so-
mean, I travel throughout the state. I've done cases in over 20 different counties. As long as they're willing to pay for the travel cost and what other money I might be losing while not being either in Houston or in the Valley, we can work that out. But otherwise, cases that I take up regularly will be here in the Valley, which are surrounding. It would be Hidalgo County, Cameron County, Starr County, and then in Houston, Harris County, Fort Bend County,
Okay.
Montgomery
cool,
County.
cool.
So
So to end this on a little bit of a lighter note, I'm gonna give a shout out because we have a segment that we do. It's called Valley Homework, right? For everyone who's listening, your Valley Homework, and just for if anyone's listening for the first time, Valley Homework is something that everyone has a week to do, right? Something nice because the whole point is to build community, right? So this week, your Valley Homework is to tell someone they did a good job. That's it. All right, so that's what you have to do. These episodes are done once a week. So between now and next week, you got to tell someone they did a good job. And I'll start first. You did a good job, man. You went to college. You didn't prove her.
Right.
You didn't prove her. Her whatever that was. That wasn't
Right.
even her like encouraging you.
No, it wasn't.
I
It was
like,
not
hey,
very encouraging
on a
at all.
14-year-old man. Like you are gonna like work at McDonald's forever.
Basically,
And if you do work at McDonald's,
there's
forever,
nothing wrong with
there's
that.
nothing wrong with that. Just no extra salt, please, on the fries. But yeah, so tell someone they did a good job. It's not hard to do. Just pick someone. It could be your janitor. It could be your mom. It could be your defense attorney. Tell him the truth. Did you kill him or not? He needs to know.
Tell us you need
Right.
to be honest with us.
Because you're wasting his time making a defense that doesn't hold water.
A house of
Right?
cards.
A house of cards, man. Don't do it, man. It sounds cool, but it's a horrible thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's
All right.
not good.
So thanks for being with us today,
Appreciate it,
man.
man. Appreciate it, bro.
This was in the works for a while.
It was.
We made it happen.
Almost a whole year.
You know how things go. Right? We make it happen.
Right.
So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for
Later,
another
guys.
week on the Rio Grande podcast, and have a good one.
Thank you.